Okay, let's make the official announcement. Welcome to the Keshe Plasma Reactor Group for Tuesday, July 11th, 2017. And as usual, we're gathered here for Keshe Plasma Reactors, of course, whatever that means. And if there's as many reactors as there are stars in the universe, as Mr. Keshe says, then that means there's lots of opportunity here to for material, let's say. And we've got a few stars of the universe with us tonight here. Denny and Mr. Chen and Shandor and Space Dream and Zoltan and David. And we'll see what comes up as we go along here. I've got a couple of general topics, but first let's just get right into it here. So, is there anything that anybody would like to discuss or bring up or present or otherwise to begin today's show?
I have a little show and tell, but
You're not anxious to do it right away. Mm-hmm. Oh.
I was hoping Lee was here because when I share ideas and he quickly makes them, but we're on a moratorium right now for making things. But
yeah, I just turned your sound on in the live stream. They couldn't hear that first part of your lovely oratory there. Could you just refresh us? You said something about you have some drawings for a spaceship, a starship configuration.
that is true, but it can also be used for health. It's just some rough ideas. It's a Microsoft Paint drawing, crude, and a few other things. I want to drop a URL into the chat, so you might get a chance to look at that. Just a moment.
Okay, so make sure my live stream's up and running here. Go. All right. Okay, we're just waiting for Denny to come back with his things here.
Okay. I will do a slight screen share for the fun of it.
All right.
And this first one will be just a flash. And then I'll go into my other. That's copyright free, by the way, Rick.
Thank you, Denny.
Okay, now I'm going to stop share. That's a fun thought, a way to get things going and rolling here. And then I'll go back to screen share and I'll do this. And so as you see things, let's see here. That URL I tried to type in, but I put it in, but I couldn't. That's that little whirly jig that I just got through showing you. And so this is like Armin's reactor, but the reactors that are in the circle there, they're they're stationary in the top ring, and the top ring moves. The bottom ring is stationary and is hooked to the stand. The legs on the stand can be telescoped up and down, so you can move those little reactors. And the little reactors spin because their shafts are touching a rail on the bottom ring. There's two rings there. Can you see those rings? You can tell me if I'm uh, if you understand me. I guess I can annotate. That would be fun, huh? Because
That might be helpful. It's a little bit obscure. I think I'm getting the direction there. The
let me
direction of where
see.
you're going. Direction of the spin.
Okay, so yeah, I got some things written there so that people have a chance to, if they ever want to just get the idea. This is like one ring here. That one moves. This is either a gear or a pulley. This can be belted on that. So that one, number one there, the top one, it rotates. The bottom one is stationary. There's the bottom one. That's stationary, hooked onto these legs. And those legs can be telescoped if you wish. I mean, it's just an idea, because you may want to move these things up and down to get the best of your fields. And these little spinners, I'll call this a little spinner, as they move, as this top ring moves around, the shaft on these spinners are rubbing up against a rail down at the bottom. And so the smaller the shaft, the faster these will spin. And depends on what side of the rail these are on, will determine the direction they spin. You know, if they're on one side of the rail, they will spin one way. If they're on the other side of the rail, they'll spin the other way. So if you want these to, say, one to spin one direction, let me see, I can't even remember where that one was going, but we'll put an arrow just so that it gets an idea. And if you want this one here to spin the other direction, you would just make certain the shaft is on the opposite rail, so every other one could spin. Now, the only reason I'm saying that is you may want to do it, but I don't know why yet. All I'm doing is putting the mechanics together to give a person some ideas how freely they can make these. And you can have other ideas too. You may even want to put a double coil, like we have in our mag gravs. You may even want to put a double coil that goes on the inside of this, and then you might put a station where you charge that coil too, because you want to put it on the one that moves. Otherwise, you're going to twist wires. So you understand what I'm saying about they'll spin. These spinners will spin because they'll be touching the rail down here. The smaller the shaft, the faster these will spin. But of course, the shaft is small already anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is just a rough idea. This stand represents basically where you're going to put the top star formation, and that can be connected to the other legs as well. And so so if the thing actually did want to fly, you would have it connected. You also could make another set of rings if you wished, just like this one here. say you'd want to put, this one here has 18 in it because that's what Armin's had, but you can put whatever you want because a lot of people use multiples of 9. And so let's say you have another set of rings right here. So it'd take another stand and you'd hook it together. So that was just a rough idea for the spinners where everything is basically open for the fields of the spinners of the 3 in the bottom star formation and the 1 at the top, plus the ones that are spinning around. And it takes a little bit. It takes a little bit to be able to figure out how to put the rail in and to fasten this down. You know, you don't have to have it so it's connected, but it's nice to have it so that it doesn't move up or down.
So you're saying there'd be like bearings in between the two rings?
I'm gonna use. I'm using. My idea is to use roller bearings, not ball bearings. And you don't have to use very many. Let me just see if I can clear my drawing. Get rid of my annotate and see if I can move. Let me see here. Move this up. See if I can find anything. Let me see. I'm just showing different things that a person might want to do. Here's one using roller bearings, but and then this one here is
Where did that come from? That's interesting.
this right here is a pellet roller. You put pellets on it on a pellet stand. So you can turn your big wooden pellets that have materials on it. And of course, it's just an idea. And there's also roller bearings set the other way. Like, let me see, I'd have to annotate again. Let me see, annotate. And there. Like right here, you can't see it in this drawing, but right there is a bearing that is going this direction. So that these are all going the other direction. This one here's going out this direction so that it holds this in place.
Right, you can see the other one on the left side there.
Yeah. So it holds it in place. So they have some, and you don't, for our purposes, if everything's light, in fact, you could make these rims out of cardboard if you wanted. I was thinking of using plywood, a thin plywood, and there's things to do if you want to make let's say you want, I gotta quit annotating because otherwise I can't move my screen up and down. So I was just using different rims that are already available that you could use, and you could use that to put your pulley on it, your gear on it, and just turn it that way too. You also set it up where you have, well, I can use that. I can do that without, well, no, I don't have annotate on right now. Okay. So you can have inside gears as well. And then you'd want to bevel the gears, and you could, let's just say, I'm going to use this as a brainstorming as well as it's not something that I'm working on right now, but since we have a moratorium of working on things, that my mind still works, and so let me see. So if you have your inside gears with your teeth, you could bevel them, and you would put a gear on here. You'd have 2 of them, one with beveled up for the gear and one with the beveled down, and you would hold that gear in place by doing that. You have 2, you would hold this rim in place just by that. One would be a drive gear, and you could say put 3 of them on there, and 2 would be an idler gear, and so you would power the drive gear, and still it all could be just, it would set it, the height would be the height of your shaft of your gears. Now I'm probably not saying that correctly, but so I'm gonna let that go for a minute and clear my drawing. And this is just to give people some ideas. Okay, annotate. You got to clear me so I can move it. I'll go back down to this funny thing that I drew, because that's the reactor. I got to move some things on my screen. So let's just go through there. There's a rail with roller bearings, like we said, that attaches the top ring to the bottom ring. And the shaft of the rings, like I said, would be going up against the rail and causing the little spinners to spin. The little reactors, for some reason, I slip and call them spinners rather than reactors. The direction of the spin is determined by what side of the rails. We already went through that. The reactors will spin in opposite directions if you alternate the sides of the rail. So if this one was on one side, that one was on the other side. So that's a simple drawing, a simple idea, easy to make with materials that you have at hand. You know, those acrylic balls that we get taped together. A ping pong ball would work with a shaft on it, and so this would, you would drill a hole. You would actually could put a ball bearing in that, so this spinner would move fast. I mean, would freely. You'd put a ball. Let me see. I guess I'd have to go over here and do this. You'd use a ball bearing to put that. Move. Well, maybe not. Okay. Well, get out of the way, get out of the way, get out of the way. So, since nobody's going to yell at me yet, I'm going to go ahead and do another one here. Let's just say this is move. There you go. That'll represent a roller bearing with a hole in it. And that would be one of these little things here. Would go down through that hole. And so that'd be a bearing. And so down below, as the ring spins, this would be up against the rail, and it would cause the spinner to spin. It would cause that spinner to spin. Anyhow, that's the story. Any questions?
Well, that's interesting.
It's beautiful. Thank you. I'd like to quote Mr. Keshe. Yesterday he told what he told earlier also in Rome, that if the row of the balls are loaded properly, in that case, you would not even need a motor to spin them. They would roll round by themselves, by the field forces, by the interaction of the field forces.
Right.
And I
Oh,
remember Dr. Gatt was experiments about 1 year ago when he had shown that he was spinning the Gans water in a glass when he
yeah,
was approaching a ball charged with specific gases, when he had the floating balls on a bucket of water. So also it's one of the ways to put just the small charged balls on a rail and to have possibility of free motion.
right.
Now the big art is how to load them.
Yeah,
How to
that would be
create
the big art.
the interactions.
So let me annotate just for a minute, because when you say things, it brings to mind something that, so this, let me put it in red. This particular portion of it, let me put it a little bigger, a little thicker. This portion of it could be used independently of the star formation and used for a health system. In other words, it would be big enough so you could step inside and you could have a series of these, say 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And if you want, you got it someplace and somebody wanted to, you don't want to use a motor or anything, you could set it up to where you hand cranked it, or you hooked it up to a bicycle wheel, and you would spin it with your own motive power, because you're only going to be in there for a short time, and so in the health unit can be self-propelled without any kind of motors.
Yeah, the question is it need for any mechanical
Turning.
way to rotate the sources of the fields, or just to use the fields in such a way to create a movement of the fields?
Yeah, you would have to test. You'd have to do your beta testing to see how everything worked, and you could, well, if it worked great without rotating, that'd be fantastic, and it would be easy to move those shafts up and down.
Yeah. On planet Earth, we have a culture with knowledge of mechanics, and we are experts in making things to move by mechanics.
Right.
So it's no problem.
So you could just sit those little items on anything, and it's where you could stand in between, and so the size of the reactor all could be simple enough. So yeah, this is just a little brainstorming, an idea.
Very
You got
good.
any other things?
It's very good you brought it up on the table. I say the biggest challenge is to understand the field interaction and the use of the field interactions to create motion.
Right. That's quite interesting, because those could be double spheres. Let me see. I think I got a drawing of one that Chen spheres. There's a double one where he has a core inside. So this is a double one. It's a small one.
Yeah, it's that one with a fixed core or with a free floating ball inside.
You can put a free floating ball inside.
Yeah, that's one of the versions.
Yeah, it comes with both. It comes with a little brass spinner that lodges. Let me see. I'd have to annotate again.
If you allow me to do a little annotation here.
Sure, that'd be great.
I saw 3 different versions or variants of this one. One of them is made of just outer ball. Now this is if it's cut in half, it would look like this one.
Right.
And there is another version when you have inside, I don't draw all the details, another one which can be made of brass or whatever, which is fixed into this one.
Right. It also spins.
And it spins together.
Right.
And there is another version where you have just a ball inside,
Right.
which is free and not attached to anything. But when it rotates, you will find out that one rotates in this way and the other cycles around in this way.
Right.
It's a different rotation in the other direction, but in this way. And there is another version which is more difficult to construct, where you need some kind of sealing here.
Yeah,
you
you'll
need
need to
kind
seal
of
it.
ring, which should be vacuum resistant because it will create some vacuum inside, where you have one motor spinning the inner one and the other spinning the outer one. This is very similar to Mr. Keshe's gas reactors for several years ago.
Right. I don't know what their design is down in Arizona, but they're making them ceramic. And
Yeah, they are not these. They are the balls which are on that round rail.
Right.
Those are said to be ceramic.
And are they double or single?
I'm not sure about.
Me, I'm not either. I don't know.
So that was this one, and meanwhile there are these which are just like you have on the photo, made of polycarbonate.
Right.
We know its maker, who is producing them on CNC lathes. And as Mr. Keshe told, another version would be to have a second row here.
Right.
Another ring of reactors around.
Yes, and there was earlier when we were doing them that were made from the nano-coated copper coils. We were having ways so that we could make walls on the inside. So one was sitting up above the other one, just wasn't sitting on the same plane or the same level. And the one that you're drawing here, is it sitting on the same plane or is it lower than the red?
Lower.
The blue is lower than the red, right?
So it would be one row here, another row here, a little wider. Then you have the top, and you have the bottom three here on another plane. And
right.
Here would be the place of the control center.
Right. They also could be switched. The smaller one could be above, below the larger set. So a lot of that is beta testing. You got to figure out which one's going to work best for you.
Now the art is to learn or to understand or discover or experiment the loads, how to load them.
Right.
In a gradient way, such as to create an interaction from one to the other to the next and so on.
Well, one of the things they're doing now, Shandor, is they're doing the hydrogen 1 Gans and the deuterium Gans and the tritium Gans, and I don't know how they're loading them or how full they are putting in each reactor. I guess a person could even change reactor sizes if they wanted to. Instead of having them all uniform, you could have them set at different diameters, those spinners that are on the rings. You can probably change the speed for the ones that the little drawing that I have. You could change the speed by the size of the shaft on the reactors. So that's my talking point here, just so that we'd have something to talk about tonight. And if there's anybody has any other questions or want me to, I'm going to stop my annotate here, clear my drawings. You can keep yours. Oh, I cleared them all, it looks like,
No
sorry.
problem.
And go back up just to this little thing that I have. And so you could see that you could have 2 layers of those like you drew, Shandor. And in fact, you could have as many layers if you really wanted to. You could have 3 if you wanted. And you could say, have them 1 layer all in hydrogen 1, 1 layer all in hydrogen 2, and 1 layer, or I'd say deuterium Gans water and tritium Gans water. I don't know how to make them yet, and I haven't practiced making them to see if I can do it well. I figured that I just relax and let things happen here over the next until after the middle of August, see what happens and see what I can learn in between now and then. So that's it. Anybody have any questions? Anybody have any more add-on to this? I'm going to stop share then and turn it over to someone else. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing. Now about the Gans is, as Mr. Keshe told, the easiest to produce is the Gans with the properties of tritium. And he gave us several hints. So that which was presented in Rome, it was one of the ways that you have a Gans of CH3. And then you have to find something to block or to lock up the fields of the carbon from here with something else, with another Gans of the field strength, which to be in balance with that. In that case, you release the fields of this one.
Yeah, the tritium
Also,
gas.
you can find another way how from 3 hydrogen to lock the fields of 1 hydrogen only, and so on. And the other way, which was presented, it was to use a simple CO2 box.
Right.
So here you create in saline solution this interconnected to create here the condition to attract the carbon, and then to put in a tray above this the CH3.
Yes.
And you give only one single chance for carbon to be extracted, is to be from here.
Right. And so that leaves you your tritium Gans, and then load your, and that right there's magnetical. The tritium Gans, the plasma water is magnetical. If I recall.
It has an extra neutron to give.
Okay. And so have you figured out how to make the deuterium Gans? And
you can do it in a similar way. For instance, if you manage to create a Gans of CH2 instead of CH3.
How do you manage to do that?
Use the understanding of how these other methods of producing Gans work and why they work.
Yes.
So right now I was trying to find another way for making the CO2 Gans. So we used to have a nano-copper, copper being around 64 in normal state, or has isotopes of 63, 65. And then in nano state, it becomes about 59 or 58 till 60, somewhere in this range is this field strength. And this is used together with a non-coated plate of zinc, which is 65, and we obtain the difference of 16 between these two. So now it would be interesting to have a CO2 gas which contains no dissolved metals in it. If you have these immersed into the water, some part of copper will be dissolved, some part of zinc will be dissolved. So now to make a more pure CO2 gas without the metals, one of the ways is to put, for instance, to make one without copper, which we use for health purposes, but we have no problem with zinc, is to put outside the nano-copper, outside of the salt water, and to put inside the salt water only the zinc. So still you have the fields here, just you have to work with salinity and the distance in between. Now the issue is with reducing the distance, you have a stronger field interaction between the two, but you have a less surface where you can attract the carbon from the environment. So if the distance is big, you have a bigger surface, but you have weaker fields. So
Right.
now the next thing would be to use something to have nano-coated plates outside. But here the problem is that the thickness of this vessel, of the container, will have an influence. As a filter. So probably you have to reduce this distance to smaller, to have less distance. And how to choose these nano-coated ones? Because if you nano-coat the zinc, if it's nano-coated, it will become a strength of about 60 to 61, and you will not have the difference of 6 in between like you had with non-coated zinc and non-coated copper. So I found out that nickel and zinc have a difference of the atomic mass or mass number of 6. Now if we nano-coat both of these, let's make them nano, maybe it will be such a 5.9 or 5.8 or something. It's still around 6. So now what I'm doing, I'm nano-coating some zinc plates, and I'm trying to nano-coat some nickel. And here, what I want to say is something interesting, that when I use the normal procedure with the same concentration of caustic, about 5% in the water, in the first day after I took the caustic out of the plates, I got a beautiful black coloration. But as the days passed, that black turns into a transparent yellow. So I don't know what happens.
Well, that's interesting. It's probably still nano-coated though, isn't it? It's just
Of course they are.
but it's not bringing like the black will be absorbing all fields, the yellows won't. I guess you could figure out what yellow absorbs.
Hey, Sandor.
Yes.
Why don't you try adding aluminum to the mixture with your platinum and your zinc?
No aluminum. It was just 1 week ago or a little more. In the past 2 weeks, in one of the presentations, Mr. Keshe just got a phone call from Dr. Klaus, and he told us repeatedly the warning: if you use Gans for health applications, never use aluminum.
No, I understand that. What I'm talking about is when I mentioned to Mr. Keshe the CH3 that turned into solidified aluminum, like not aluminum, but a silver CH3, it was because it was platinum, some aluminum, and zinc in a Gans.
I don't know about that.
So I was just wondering if you ever tried to use aluminum with your platinum, and instead of the zinc coated iron, just iron itself.
I don't understand, so please explain and explain why to use specific materials. Please do that if you started this subject.
It wasn't that I decided to use that. I was, when I was making different types of Gans, I tried the components from like a hard drive. You know, a hard drive is made from.
I understand. So you try by random according to what materials are accessible.
Right.
So now the hard drive disks, the really composite ones, the newer ones maybe contain aluminum, but
it's an old one. It was about 20 years old, so it was aluminum discs that were nickel plated, but yet the
nickel on aluminum, that doesn't work. Are you sure about that composition?
Of well, inside the platters, there's the platters,
yeah,
which are nickel plated aluminum discs, but the actual housing of the hard drive is aluminum also. So there was that component and some silicone, obviously, and some. It was just, you know, it was just an experiment that I tried, and that's where I got this really dark black CH3 that solidified into a silver color, and I didn't know what to make of it. And that's why when I told Mr. Keshe about it, I don't know if he understood. That's when he mentioned something about the black box at NASA or something like that. I don't know. So
please listen again. He told about how to open a gate in the triple shielding of a spaceship by another field of the same style, but something different. That was about the black box with NASA. It doesn't have to do anything with hard drive plates or aluminum or whatever.
No. But was this? We were talking about the deuterium and the tritium and how to manufacture to create that Gans.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned that I had made some CH3 that turned into a silver solidified CH3. So if you look at that disc, that's a nickel.
Such a discs, the modern ones are covered with molybdenum, not with nickel, and the older ones had palladium or platinum. And inside there is another layer of cobalt and other magnetic materials on a support of metal, which in the very old ones was of steel, and recently there are different compositions. Maybe some contain aluminum. I never met one made of aluminum. Maybe I didn't disassemble the new ones which are in my computer.
Sure, when you make them, you know what they're made of. So I made them, I plated them. I worked in that industry 20 years ago. So you're in that
industry, so you have a good information, okay.
Right, so that's why, their aluminum blanks are and then they're nickel platinum coated, basically what you have right in front of you. And so there was that, but the housings themselves for the entire thing are also aluminum also. And then there's some silicone, you know, that is if you put a whole hard drive as a plate, that's what I was trying to say. I used the whole thing as a plate. So it was a combination of the aluminum, the platinum.
So including this part, which is
the whole thing,
aluminum magnesium alloy.
Right, the whole thing.
Magnesium and silicon alloy.
Right, the whole thing.
Yeah, it's mainly aluminum, but it has some magnesium, it has some silicon as well, some proportions.
I don't know why I had that idea. I just decided, I'll use that as a plate.
Yeah, so you can try at random, but if you are not aware of what we put inside, the result may be also random. That's
No, I
the-
understand. I understand. I was just giving that information that's what that's how I achieved that. I don't know how much of my intention was to create something out of that.
The question is, do we have ways to measure the properties of the produced Gans properly, to be sure to analyze it? Because you see, X-ray or infrared Raman spectroscopy gives some results of certain a certain range, but it's not enough for a full analysis.
And no one has one in their pocket right now to measure anything with. Rick, I think Rick said that.
Yeah. So
Looking
thank you for
for
sharing anyway.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
It's one of the ways to do something at random. This is how people discover new things by accident. Oh, I dropped something into this one which is not supposed to be there, and I observe the effect. That's one of the ways to discover new things which nobody had idea. If you can analyze what you did and if you can repeat it. Another thing is to have an understanding about the phenomenon or the phenomena, what happened, and then to create specific conditions for a targeted result. And you try to achieve a result by putting together the things according to previous knowledge. So both ways are practical.
A recipe for success, right? We want to have like a recipe for a successful.
I don't need recipe. I know some people of Earth, some cultures are very good in writing rice recipes and keeping exactly the perfect quality. You see the Japanese or the German, they have engineers who know down everything in very tiny details, and that's why they can repeat the same production with the same quality. Look at the Japanese ceramics. Since 2000 years, it's the finest in the world because they keep exactly the recipe. But working by recipe, it's not the way how to discover new things. You have to change something or to use something new.
Well, I mean, once you find that you have something different, it's recording how you created that. That sometimes you want to keep the data so that you can try to replicate it again.
Yeah. So recipe is very good for replication. The better the recipe is with more details, so the better you can replicate the same constant quality. That's what recipes are good for.
So in your experiment, are you using table salt or magnesium salts or calcium salts, potassium?
It depends. It depends. I have several salts there on the shelf. I have such a magnesium salt, some potassium salt. When I want a pure sodium chloride, I'm using pharmaceutical grade, the pharmacy grade salt, which is 99.5% sodium chloride. This is which is used in pharmacies in different packing, of course. This is a commercial packing for public.
I wanted to ask if you nano-coat in the nano-coating process, if you add potassium to KOH, that's potassium.
Yeah.
If you add that to the nano-coating process, does that in some way impart potassium in the spectrum of what you're going to create?
You have to understand something. When you have, I want to find something to show them. So if you have the atoms in the molecule, or not even in the metal sheet, they are in a tight connection, very tight connection in between. When you use some method of nano-coating by adding some extra energy, and then you can do it in the old way by gamma rays or extreme ultraviolet or whatever, or you can use the sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide or electric current, doesn't matter, or heat. What happens? You release some part of the atoms so that from that solid state, from that solid state of matter, it becomes like a gas. So it gets freed from the rest. But because of the magnetic gravitational fields and interactions, some of these, they cannot go completely free, but remain in proximity. And being many released like that in proximity, according to the energy level which they got, they will get a certain spacing in between. That's when you get a nano layer. It's a transition between the solid and between the gas, where these all are at a big distance.
No, I understand that. I guess
now, what I wanted to say by this introduction, if you use sodium salt, sodium hydroxide, you get a specific spacing. It gives a specific energy. If you use potassium, you get a different one. You get magnesium, again, you get a different one. So you create different spacings in between. And that determines one can fit in and what kind of fields you get in between.
What I was trying to make the connection was with the body's potassium. Mr. Keshe said that you could use potassium from vegetables is a good source. I just wanted to know if it was possible to have that potassium done in the nano-coating process.
Coffee is a very good source of potassium, Nescafe especially. It's like a potassium bomb. Vegetables contain a lot of potassium, specifically those which are dry ones like beans or peas.
Okay,
What
is the use of potassium? Why would you want to have potassium in your mixture?
So now in the nano-coating, potassium, presence of potassium extremely important, because 120 ppm of the potassium of the nature, it's not isotope 39, but it's isotope 40, potassium 40. And that makes a radiation in form of a beta radiation. It goes through a beta decay, which has a very long half-life, like 1,200,000 millions or so on years, or some billions of years. So it has some radioactivity, and that radiation, it's very important, because if you have it in the conditions in which you create a nano-coating, that gives the extra spark, extra scintillation, which is making the atoms to get free in an easier way. It's very similar to what the living body uses in form of cobalt, for instance, in vitamin B12, which is cobalamin. That little radiation is needed for division. It gives a little extra energy. And it's a different thing if you have mainly sodium hydroxide with a little potassium added. And it's different if you use only potassium hydroxide for nano-coating. You get different qualities of nano-coating, so you get different filters. Still, you will make a CO2 gas with this one and with that one, but they will be a different energy level. So we are learned to classify everything, and we think that if we name something with the same name, it's all the same. You see, we say now this is, let's say, carbon dioxide gas, but there are so many kinds of them. Look at, for instance, at humans. One is thin, the other is fat, one is short, the other is tall. Still, they are humans, but they are not the same. Or look at the dogs. All are dogs, but you have tiny Chihuahua dog and you have the Great Dane. Still, they are dogs. So same with ganses. You have a whole spectrum of the same kind of gans according to the conditions which you put in the process. Sometimes it's desirable to have a wide range, a wide spectrum of the materials. If you want to feed the body, for instance, you need a wide spectrum. If you want to make something, to make a certain quality of something, in that case, you want to focus, in case of energy application, you don't want a wide spectrum, you want to have a very narrow spectrum to be fine-tuned.
Mr. Sanda, Can I have
Yes.
ideas? Because you know, when you put the plate on the outside of the box, you are always fixing thickness of the box. Why you
That
don't put
matters.
why you don't put the plate on the plastic bag and you put on the water? The plastic bag is very
It's very easy to put not outside of the box, to put in a plastic bag, as you say, in a Ziploc bag. And
but
then it's a very thin material,
yeah,
not a very thick
yes,
one, you
yes,
can
you are right. But you can make a distance of the two plates. You can control the distance of two plates.
I think that's the way how to do it.
Yeah. I think if you put on the plastic bag, you can put two plates nearer if you want. And the distance of the two plates you can change. If you put on the box, you have to put outside of the box and the thickness of the box, and you have difficulty. It's even more easy if you put on the plastic bag and you put on the solution. It's easier.
That's very good.
Yeah, I think it's the best way.
Thank you for sharing that.
No, it's only my ideas. My circumstances told to me. No, yeah, this is a good idea. But at home, I do now. I make a wire. I put outside of the bottle, and I nano-coating a wire. You see, inside of the bottle is a very good plasma field inside.
Yes.
What I do is what Mr. Keshe say. If you have a plasma field, a strong plasma field, everything become Gans. What I do now, I try to do something, but I don't know. I put two wire to make one reactor. In the middle, I put like a CS3 or CO2, and the two coil I connect with one condensator to make the intensity stronger. And you put this one in on the top of the tank. You have a very strong plasma field. If you put CS3, they give you CS3 on the solution. If you put CO2, they give you CO2. This is the very best way, easier to make against. And you can modify the intensity, and you can modify everything.
Yeah. Thank you thank you very much for sharing that. By the way, here is the nickel, which I intended to nano-coat it. Just let me move the camera inside. So you see its color, its aspect.
Yeah.
And I will show you now from a record how it looked like some days ago, or exactly on 4th. I have here a video to share. It's made by me, no copyright issues. Let's stop this video and share the screen instead. It's no sound on the video. So here it was the phase on 4th. I eliminated the caustic of it, and look how it looks after I take out the caustic. It's a 6 minutes video. So for taking out the caustic, I used the pipe, a hose. I filled that hose with water and I plugged it with my fingers. Remember, use protection gloves, protection glasses, and so on. So it's a pure water inside, tap water practically. So now I put one of the ends above the liquid. And with the finger still outside of the water, I have to do with the other hand to let you show, otherwise my camera covers. I released it and I immediately put it inside. And you see, I never put the finger in the caustic, even though with gloves. So now still I keep the other end plugged. Now I move this other into the bucket, which is below. This is above on the table. I fixed that end of the hose at the bottom, and you see it's siphoning out in a very easy way the caustic without need to touch the plates. So if you want to make a nice nano coating, this is the way how to remove the caustic instead of handling and moving the plates. Because whenever you touch the plates, you just crush the coatings which you just produced. Okay, and you see the color after it's out of the caustic. Okay, I may move this a little bit. Okay, so there is a little liquid. Now it's almost empty. I leave always a few cubic centimeters, a few milliliters of caustic in the box in order to keep a moist condition. Okay, this is done. I put the tube inside the bucket. This will be washed later. Of course, I will reuse the caustic. I will save the caustic into another bottle. Okay, gloves off. And then the next step, which is very important, is to give a direction for growing for the nanolayers. So this we do as polarization by closing the circuit between 2 points on the metal plate by a voltmeter. So that voltmeter, it's like it acts like a resistance of very high value from electric viewpoint, hundreds of kilo ohms or sometimes mega ohms. And in the meanwhile, you see some voltage is created on the surface. So I try to move it in such a way to not cover the camera with my hands. It's not easy without having an assistant. Maybe like this you will see it. So one of the ways is to put one pole at the base on that chicken mesh or rabbit mesh, and then to touch a corner with the other electrode. They have to be sure the cables are plugged in well. So you see there some millivolts, sometimes jumping above 200 millivolts, so I have to change the scale. So this is an important step, but what I wanted to show here, it's to show you the color of that nickel plate. It was becoming dark. Now the thing is that the darkness started to fade out. So I don't know exactly what process is done there. So we keep it in a closed box for the next days. Oh, here I lifted too much. So instantly, as I took out the water, they become dark color.
So when did you start noticing its color changing to yellow?
After about 3 days, 4 days. So I was wondering that it's fading.
Did you etch the part in old caustic?
I didn't etch it. I just clean it thoroughly to be sure no fingerprints, no oxides on it.
And did you use a 9010 NaCl with KOH, or what was your caustic?
Sodium chloride is not caustic. It's
NaCl, sorry, NaCl and KOH.
NaCl. It's a stable salt.
I'm sorry, I mean NOAH.
NaOH. Yes, sodium hydroxide. Yes, I use the For 1 liter of water, I use the just a second. I have it written here for 3 liters of water. Just this is another box which I'm showing. This is the box of zinc plates. So for each liter of water, I used to use 40 grams of sodium hydroxide and 10 grams of potassium hydroxide, or 12 grams or 15 grams. So here I made for a 3 liter box, so it's 3 times the quantity. So for 3 liters of water, I used 120 grams of sodium hydroxide, 40 grams of potassium hydroxide. By the way, these are the zinc plates. Oops. These are getting a little dark. I don't want now to stretch that.
And in the bottom, you have zinc coated chicken wire.
Yes.
Do you put any DNA in with it?
DNA?
You know,
Shall I spit into?
this is Stephen. Do you ever add any DNA to your, you know, like a little blood or a little hair or a little
No.
anything?
Why to put that?
Oh, to
No.
connect with it?
No. No need. Why to connect my body with it? Isn't it enough to connect my intention?
Sure.
DNA is the body, is part of the body.
Sure.
You know, the problem is that people get in trouble for their own identity. We are searching for the soul. You don't need to search it. You are the soul. The problem is that people are in mistake, they are in error and confusion about their own identity. Some people got a rank or they got a position and they confuse themselves that we are not just other humans made by a mother, but they are a corporal or a surgeon or a minister. You understand? Some people confuse their own identity with the clothes which they are wearing or with the hairstyle or whatever. But these are only the forms. And you see, the forms can perish. Every form has just a duration of lifetime. And we see the forms are perishing, and we get the misconception that the soul can perish too, or we can perish too. An immortal being can do many things, has many abilities, but only one thing it cannot do: to cease to exist. All the matter is going under the cycles and changing and so on.
No, I understand that. I thought that if your intention was to create something that did no harm, if some of you was in it, that would eliminate any possibility of the NOAH, maybe if for health reasons, maybe being imparted. That's why I just thought that if you had some of your intention to do no harm in DNA, that it might help offset any possibility that there could be something harmful in it.
Intention is not matter.
Right.
Whatever you put matter, like DNA or blood or saliva or whatever, it's matter. It contains some information, of course, but it's matter. You see, this is matter. This is matter. This flesh is matter. It's not the same flesh I had when I was 20 years young. It's not the same flesh when I have, hopefully, at 8 years of age. If I'm changing the appearance, I'm changing the clothes, or I'm changing the flesh, will I be the somebody else?
Yeah, it's just a couple of years ago, there was talk about adding a little DNA to the process. I just wondered if that's still. I know to me, this is all just widgets till we get to the soul, till we can elevate the soul and use the soul. It's just confirmation and confidence in the process comes through practice and experimentation. And I just wondered if there was still anything to be gained by still doing things like that.
Yeah, finding the soul is to find something which you never lost, But to get out, get rid of your bad conceptions or misconceptions.
Okay.
So we have a lot of many of us, we have many misconceptions about what we are. That is the issue. If I change my car, would I be somebody else? If I change my house, would I be somebody else? So if I change my flesh, which every 7 years they are growing new cells, will I be somebody else? If I change the whole body, will it change the essence? If I get a high rank, I'm now the excellency of so-and-so, highest advisor to the king, will I be somebody else? We all come to this world naked and we live in a different way. It does not matter what kind of things you are earning and using. The problem is people are confusing themselves with such a labels. You see, in the same city, they can be people divided by putting in their mind things, two falsities instead of a single truth. So one is said to be believer, the other is said to be non-believer. It's a division. Religious and non-religious. Okay, and in between religious, okay, let's make a split. Eastern Christians, Western Christians. Oh, Western Christians, let's make a division. Reformats and or Protestants or Catholics. So, or like in the Muslims, they have a division, Sunni and Shia. It's to divide, divide, divide. In the same city, there are people who are neighbors, friends, but when it comes to football, they are just looking like enemy one to the other because one is a supporter of the team A and the other of the team B. People get divided because of the intentions in economics. Some say they are capitalists, others say they are socialists, and those are lies. No, none of them is the truth, none of them is the entire solution to their problem. It's just the thing how to divide people. Divide and control, divide et impera. Do you know who was the Caesar who said that? It's a very old concept. And because people believe everything which is written or said by somebody, they get in confusion. How you get in confusion? You agree. You agree with something which is fed to you. Look, education, newspapers, media, TV. Oh my God, how many false information are fed into the mind of people, and people used to agree. And they get into a big trouble when they get a new leadership and they got fed by something else. Do you know after the Second World War how many history teachers in Japan just went crazy, or they just did seppuku, suicide, because they could not accept that everything which they taught before, it's not anymore valid. For instance, in history, because in the past, before the Second World War, they were teaching this is Japan, and this is Japan, and this all is Japan, and this all Indonesia, and all the islands, all the continent is all Japan. And suddenly you had to wake up at the reality after the war finished that it's not really like that.
Yes,
Just
I understand.
Yeah.
That's why I was hoping Mr. Keshe would teach us or enlighten us on how to develop our telepathy so that we could see the intention of all information that's in front of us.
No telepathy, because tele contains the word tele, which means distance in Greek.
A form of intention that lets us communicate with only when it's peaceful and it does no harm. That type of information.
You see, it's not the problem how to tap into the universal communication. The problem is how you got isolated. if you accept to be in the same space with somebody else, you let him to come closer, you are okay to hug him or to shake hands or whatever. You allow him to be in the space. Already there is a communication at the level of intentions and feelings and emotions. Not words like saying something complicated, but the intentions, you feel the intentions. But for that, you have to accept to be in the same space, to share in the same space. All the space and time is a thing which is just in the physical universe. All they are matter, parts of the matter state. Space, time, energy, these are all parts of the matter state.
Well, I didn't mean telepathy. I meant the zero time communication that Mr.
And
Keshe.
let's not say the mistake that some people say they forgot at the time and they say zero communication, because zero communication means no communication. So it's an instant. It's an instant communication. Look at in this age when we have so modern communication devices like getting a message, a text message, or typing in a chat or something like that. Often it happens, more often than in the past, that people get surprised when they have a question of concern and they want to send it to somebody or to a group of others which is in good relations, to put a question, to get a solution for. And he starts typing, and before he hits the enter to send a message, just the answer pops up. Have you observed such a thing?
Yes.
So the communication goes instantly.
It actually happens quite often in the knowledge seekers workshops, or recently in the peace workshops that we've been doing as well. And people will type in this question all nicely and so on, and if they just waited maybe 2 or 3 minutes later, instead of focusing on their nicely typed out question and just listened, they would get the answer. And that's quite often the case. If you really have a question that needs to be answered, it'll get answered without you even, like Chandra says, by the time you type it in, the answer's already come through.
Yeah, the key to it is very simple: to accept the other being to be in the same space with you, to not reject him.
Yes,
to not create a barrier in between. I observed this first time when I was 14. I had a good relationship with my father. We have been in the same car, my father was driving, and we were chatting this and that because we were anyway in a traffic jam in the city. And after a minute of silence, I wanted to change the subject to something which was shown last Friday on the TV and a scientific program. And we both opened our mouths and started to talk the same words in the same second. Or so many times it happens that just I have the feeling I have to leave this room and to bring some water to my wife. And she says, why? You brought this glass of water? Because I was so thirsty. How did you know about it? I did not know. I just felt that I have to bring some water. And that's no need for it. It's not sounds speaking or voices in the head. That's nonsense. It's just the feeling that I have to do it. Or sometimes I put a pot on the fire, and I leave that room and I do something else. And sometimes I have a thought, a feeling that it would be good to go to the kitchen to see how it is. And if I don't go in the same second, next minute it will really burn.
Yeah, I've experienced
there to tell me messages.
I've experienced that in the knowledge seekers workshop. I could be thinking about something, and it seems like Mr. Keshe hears you thinking about this, because he'll just go right into that point, like you're saying, before you type it and hit enter, the question is answered.
Yeah.
And I just thought, for world peace, if everyone could tune themselves into a peaceful intention, then they would know that they don't need to have a gun in their hand, or they don't need to hurt someone, because there's no peace that is derived from any of those actions.
Yeah.
and how we can
actually,
elevate.
if you choose somebody to send a message to him specifically, it's enough to think at what he is, to think at his name, his face, his being, or whatever, and he got immediately the sensation. Also, it happened years before. I was working in an office doing some business communications and so on. And in a moment, suddenly I thought, how about Mrs. So-and-so? Because we didn't talk since 6 months. Maybe the company needs some new purchases. I just thought at that. And the telephone rang in 30 seconds, and who was there? I guess it was lady so-and-so. So probably I got the message that she was thinking, okay, where is the number of Mr. Kokoshi to call him because we need some purchase. And this happens and happens and happens. Now the problem, why many people are not aware of that, because they have a busy mind, a very busy mind, and their mind is working all the time with thoughts and looking at beautiful pictures of their own imagination, of their own thoughts, and they're able to walk in a pole because they don't see the environment. They see only the evaluation of their thoughts, or they don't recognize their brother in the same street when they meet 2 meters. Don't be so busy with your mind. You know, mind is like a computer. You get a new computer, wow, it's nice, you learn how to use it, and then it has such a nice games and such internet or forums and chat, and finally you forgot why you use the computer. And you become addicted just watching at the beauties, and you spend 1-2 hours doing nothing, just browsing, instead of doing your job of your purpose with that computer. Have you ever had such an experience? The same happens with everybody had it. So now that's why people, as they get addicted to the beauty of pictures of the computer, they get addicted to the beauty of the pictures of their own mind and their own thoughts and evaluations. And instead of seeing somebody who shows them something, they don't see what's told to them or shown to them. They just think about what he wants with that. You know, in the morning somebody says, hello, you are looking good. And do I have the buttons in the wrong way? Why he told I'm looking good? It's not normal. Instead of accepting that somebody told, hello, you are looking good, he's thinking, oh, what's wrong with my clothes? You see, this is because of the mind is working and evaluating. Just remember that the computer is the computer. So this is the computer, and this is me. And I am the boss who is using the computer, and I'm not the slave of the computer. Same with your mind. Think less, perceive more. That's a way to solve the things in an easier way. Okay, thank you for attention.
Thank you.
I hope I replied you about telepathy, and about the telepathy also, it's not sending from here to there, just accept that you are in the same place with the other. And that works better than sending beams of energy or whatever.
Yes, these old definitions are really troublesome for us, aren't they, when we're trying to define what has yet to be defined.
Yeah. Meaning of words sometimes brings people in confusion. And somebody said once that it's possible to get enlightened just by getting a perfect understanding of the meanings of every word. Just clarifying the meaning of the words alone can produce enlightened beings. Because you don't get into the confusion.
Hello, Ray.
Hello, Mr. Chen. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I have something to talk?
Sure, go ahead.
Can you say to Mr. Keshe one thing? You know, in the plasma now, in the black matter, Mr. Keshe, she say everything is a plasma. Everything is plasma. You right? Everything is plasma.
Plasma is principal matter, plasma is transitional matter, plasma
Is everything.
matter state like gas, like liquid, like solid.
Yeah.
So plasma, what does it mean, plasma? It's something like a dough when you make a bread or you make a cake. It's the same dough, just you shape it in a different way.
Yeah.
And that's the original meaning of the word plasma in Old Greek.
Yeah. Why I say everything is still plasma? Because everything changes, and they change the matter doesn't change, but they change the construction of the matter only. Everything is plasma. And in Chinese medicine, we say everything is key, everything is energy. For our body, everything is energy. Not only our body, but everything on the world is energy, like a mountain and a water, a bird, a plant. Everything is energy. They change each to other condition only.
Yeah, energy is the consequence of the interactions of plasmas in space.
Yeah, why? In black matter, we say a plasma, but in the Chinese medicine, traditional medicine, we say everything is key. Everything is key. Like Charles Chan, last time he has said, he feels the key in his body. But the medicine, Chinese medicine, he say everything is key. In the Buddhist,
that's a very nice thing. Now the question is how many people understand what the key what that means, because many people are using the word.
Yeah, and in the Buddhist, Buddha say everything is the Dharma. The same thing. You see, in Mr. Keshe, everything is with plasma. Buddha say everything is Dharma, and for the medicine, Chinese medicine, everything is key. I think three things is the same thing. Plasma, Dharma, and key is the same thing. But in the each one view in the is in his corner. You see, each one look at the corner like a car. You in the front of the car, you say is the front of the car. On the back of the car, you say I see the back of the car. In the side of the car, you see on the side of the car. But each one is the same thing. Plasma, Dharma, and the key is the same thing. It's a changing of the nature of the metal only. We have to look at this one because Z3 is something that he have a same way to of the division. Is a changing of the metal only. Why I say in because we are learning from Mr. Keshe for the metal. He says everything is plasma. But for Buddha, he says for the soul, he see everything is Dharma. Dharma is everything. And the key, he say everything is the key. Key is energy only. Energy is a plasma too.
What does it mean, Dharma?
Huh? Dharma?
What does it mean, Dharma?
Dharma, I have because Dharma. 1 minute. 1 minute. Dharma. The division. There is no term to Buddhist terminology wider than Dharma. It includes not only the conditioned thing on and said, but also non-conditioned and absolute nirvana. There is nothing in the universe or outside, good or bad, conditioned or non-conditioned, relative and absolute, which is not included in this term. What we say, everything is the Dharma.
Thank you.
I
sorry.
eat, I thinking, I talking, I everything is Dharma.
Okay, thank you. So now, right now, I'm reading from some words told by Sadhguru, who said Krishna spent a lifetime wanting to establish Dharma. Many things went his way and to some extent he did create what he wanted. Many things many things did not go the way he wanted, and people started interpreting and misinterpreting Dharma according to their own ideas. So you see, somebody brought up a concept, a word, and later people started to interpret and misinterpret the same concept according to their own ideas.
Yeah,
So
what
that's making an issue. So that's why we need new terminology and to define the things according to the terminology which is understood by people.
But one thing, this time, Mr. Keshe always repeat saying Buddha, because he say Buddha haven't eat for 49 days in the meditation. He say he do the same thing with the plasma, the same thing. He don't need to eat on 49 days. Why?
Yeah, yes, and in the same time when he finished that meditation,
Yeah.
he just heard on a boat on a river which was passing nearby, a master was teaching his student about how to tune up a musical instrument with strings. So don't tie the string too much because it will break, and don't let it too loose, it will not sound good. And he got enlightened, and he found out that you have to find a golden middle way for happiness, and to don't go neither to the enjoying only the pleasures of life or only on rejecting all the pleasure of life or in an ascetic way. That was his first enlightenment, according to the scriptures.
No, what I want to say, Buddha is for the soul. Mr. Keshe teach us for the matter, and the key teach us for the energy only. But everything is good for our because we are living in the earth. We have controlled our key. We have controlled our matter. We have controlled our soul only. The same thing. But we have to learn these three for to balance, because for Buddha we have to balance our soul. For the key we have balance yang and yin, and so matter we have to balance the matter only. So same thing. But each one have a good one for the health of the human. What I want to say only.
Okay, thank you. That was interesting dialogue there. I mean, there's other ways to look at that all-inclusive thing. There's some religions that say God is everywhere, and there's other thought concepts about love is everything is love, or that God is love, and so on. So there are different perspectives that one can look at depending on where one is sitting, I guess. Well, let's move along here with see Mark has a first, is there any other comments or questions about that topic, or shall we move on to Mark? Going once, going twice.
So if you want peace, the best way is to make peace within yourself first.
Yeah, I'm agree.
As you see, the intentions are felt by those who you accept to be with them. And if they accept, they don't put barriers as well. You put good intentions, those will spread easily. And it's no need for words for that. You want order, you start making order on your own desk, in your own room, in your own house, in your own street, and then you go to the whole world, one by one, step by step. But if you forget about yourself and your things, and you are still not at peace within yourself, it's hard to achieve peace in the entire world.
Yes, indeed, that's a good pointer. Sometimes we have high ideals, but we're still, dealing with issues in our own lives with others that show that we don't really have the highest ideals that we thought we had, perhaps. But that's what we get to work on. That's how we get to elevate ourselves as humans, is to find out those things that are keeping us down and where there's points of friction, and try to get them smoothed out.
There one thing I take on the Three Musketeers, Three Musketeers of Edison.
Three Musketeers, yeah.
Yeah, he say 1 for 3, 3 for 1 for 3. 1 person for 3 person, and they make a strong.
I think it was
one for all for one.
Yeah, one for all.
One for all.
All for one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very good. I think we have to union, hand by hand. You need each to other. We work. We each one for everybody, and everybody for each one. Is the best way.
Yeah, that's a good concept.
If you are against, you already lost.
Yeah. I want to give, I don't to receive. When you know what I learned from Keshe, I want to teach to my to the women, miss people only. I'm too old to learn, but I have to learn because the others they don't want to learn. I don't know. They are so selfish. I think they want to receive only. What Mr. Keshe always says, everybody won't receive. They don't want to give.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, and that's sort of the human condition, basically. And we come onto this planet, and the first thing we do is we're crying, "Wah! I want, I want air, I want milk, I want food." And then we continue from there. You look at most, right up to teenagers, they're whining that I want this, I want that, and we're needy. We need stuff on this planet. It's part of our culture of needs and wants and so on. But I think we've gotten a bit carried away, especially with our modern culture, and people are so involved in their lives that they don't have a chance to they're so focused on everything outside. There's fast moving things and distractions all over, and TV and radio, and there's sounds happening, and there's your iPhone, and there's your computer and screens, and TV and movie screens and whatnot. There's a lot going on in most people's lives, and that's just on the way to work. So there's a lot of external focus on things, and sometimes it takes a stopping of that external focus and going back with a literal internal focus, searching for the source of our attention. If our attention normally goes out and falls onto things, onto objects, onto ideas onto sounds and so on, then what about if we reverse that flow and have our attention go inward, seeking the source of attention? And if we can do that and try to focus on that place within ourselves, that is that little voidness, that little quiet voice inside of ourselves that comes from that voidness, then it's a good place to start from to try to refocus and reevaluate all the things in our external life in a different, from a different perspective. And I think this idea of giving and receiving is quite important. Mr. Chen, I think you're getting some feedback coming through there. There's some noise. I'll just mute you temporarily. There we go. Now I can think, so to speak. The idea that we can learn to, instead of always receiving, we receiving in terms of we put our attention on things in order to get stuff and to create these emotions are created, emotion that allows us or makes us move and pick up things and eat things and do things and drive and go and all the things that we do, motivated by that emotion. But perhaps there's a different way of operating. Instead of being motivated by our personal emotion in that sense of always feeding ourselves and satisfying our urges, and it's, you know, part of that me generation is it's all about me. Instead, focusing on a different way of life where it's giving, and it's essentially taking care of the needs of others, and the concepts of like projecting your presence and love to others, and this really important concept of giving from the soul, which is kind of a strange term when you first hear it, but if you actually try it, I mean, it's very, very simple. It's got two prime words, give and soul. And just about everybody knows the word give, what it's like to give, that emotion of give, and what the word means, give. And everybody has their own concept of what their soul is, or what soul is in general. So to give from the soul, I mean, you can't squirm out of it. It's like two words, give and soul. If you don't know the meaning of either one, then you can be forgiven. But otherwise, why not try it, right? To actually just sit and give from the soul. And it doesn't have to be for, 40 days and 40 nights solid, timed or anything, or even for any time limit. But the way I see it is more of an instantaneous, and you put it out, and then you're done, and you can give from the soul at any time you feel, any time there's a need.
Rick,
Go ahead. Yeah.
Rick, can I share screen?
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I miss it. Send dog. Okay. Okay. Yeah. You see here? Do you see my screen? Hello? Yeah.
A coil there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are two coins. In the middle of the coin, we can put a tube of the Gans.
Mm-hmm.
And I see, you see inside coin and outside coin, we have connect with the, I don't know, we can connect a capacitor or or a battery.
Right.
And this one, he can create a very strong plasma field. if you put on here, what I do, if we put here a tank with the water inside, water solution inside, we can create here a plasma field. And if you put here CO2, I think here he can make a CO2 itself. I think as this way, because this field is a field of CO2. If I put on the middle here a CO2, and here I make a field, strong field of CO2. This is a solution of salt, 10%. We have to try it. I think with this way we can do many things. And if we have, we make 1 minute. If I make 2 coins and I put it to other, I connect it to other. If I put here CO2 here, KNOH, and I put only a plate of again ZNO CO2, and I put 1 plate of zinc here, he can have I separate them. Here we have a CO2 and here we have zinc directly. I think so. This is a way to produce the gain, but pure Gans. One side is CO2 and one side. If we separate them, or we make two.
Would the coils be in the fluid or above it?
And no, above it.
Okay.
I make only to a field only.
I see. Well, that'd be interesting to try it.
Yeah, I really have to try it on one thing. 1 minute. I try to do something better. I can put 2 tanks separately, like this one, and I connect the 2 coils. This one with CO2, this one with ZNO. We have 2 tanks. This one make a CO2, pure CO2, and this one make a zinc oxide, pure zinc oxide. Because here we put CO2, we have only a field of CO2, and I put the zinc oxide here, we have only a field of zinc oxide.
Well, you got the field of the copper or the copper nano as well.
Yeah.
So
Copper,
I'm not sure what you'll get there.
Everything.
You'll have to try it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Or someone will.
I think with this way we have a very strong field. You see, we try to create a very strong field here and very strong field here.
Yeah,
and
right.
You have to try. This is good for the production because it make a pure Gans, I think.
Yeah, not sure. You'd have to try it and see. It's a different technique. It's different than what Chandra was talking about earlier.
Because Mr. Keshe always say we create a field, a strong field. We have a Gans, a good Gans. only.
Yeah, but the idea is to create the field of the carbon, not just to create a strong field. And that's the idea that Shandor brought up earlier. You create there's a difference between the two plates. It's a
Yeah.
potential of carbon between them. So with this potential, I'm not sure what you get. It's copper and CO2, Gans, and water. And what is the potential, and what do you get in between generated? That's the question.
No, no, it's only my idea. Maybe he make something better, or when you do this one, you have the other thing. I don't know.
Hmm.
Try it and you know.
Yeah, we'd have to try it, I guess. I think I'd like to move to Mark's. I saw Mark had his video on there. Would you like to do a little show and tell there, Mark, for a bit?
Hi, Greg.
Hi, Mark.
How are ya?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, just in a, like I said, in a stand down mode. We're just, we're still in that mode, right? We're still in a no touch mode.
Well, I guess so. It's the idea being that we ought to be focusing more on the peace process rather than, and that can be internal and external, rather than our our intimate details with the Ganses and nanomaterials and rotating reactors and whatnot. But on the other hand, Mr. Keshe in the last workshop was talking about the Starship configuration reactor setups and so on, and how the experiments are going on with those, and that kind of thing. So
Well, in my, for my end, because I try to break things down in a little bit more of a simple um, idea. When I'm told, to me, this, because I'm from Detroit, and I'm so I for a long time it's very hard to teach yourself discipline, and if you don't discipline yourself, especially where I live, you can get yourself in a whole lot of trouble real fast. So for me, when the teacher told us to stand down, that's what it meant, stand down. And it was very difficult for me in the very first days, because this type of technology represents a future for me and for everybody. And you know, I was we're excited to touch it and work with it and experiment with it and enjoy the benefits of it. But when the teacher tells us, hold on, folks, we have some more things to think about. We have to reach different goals and different. That's why that's what I interpreted as something that somebody gave me an opportunity to do some things that might help some people. And but when he said, "Hey, we got to focus ourselves on some other areas," that's what I that's what I determined. I'm in full blown um, experiment mode. I mean, I am my mind on this technology is 24/7. But the teacher said to stand down and think about some things that and also let some other people catch up to the to where we are, to try to explain some things and some basic things that a lot of us take for granted. We've been in this for 2.5 plus odd years, and it's so exciting that our minds think of these things at such a rapid pace. It's kind of hard to pull the horses back, but I think that's what we had to do here for the last couple of days, because we have some issues that are a little bit more pressing. We had some friends that we had to reflect upon. We had some some things that people had to show us progress in, and that reassured us that progress can be made through this technology. So with that, the progress and the friends that we've had among us and we've lost made me think that, yes, I have the strength to stop touching the material aspect of this, because sometimes it can overwhelm us or take us over, or, try to dictate to us what we should do today and the next day and the day following. But sometimes it's better for us just to look back at where we came from in order to know where we're going to. We ought to know by now that this technology does work. These things that we're doing are working. We have testimony over testimony, and I could, in the last month, I could tell you 10 testimonial stories of what the Gans has done for me and my family. And it's just a story, and every story will be a story until it's your story. And I think that's the point that Mr. Keshe was making, is that this is a personal adventure that we want to include as many people as possible to enjoy it, understand it, and go forward with it. We have to, for us, that is, we're not teachers. Well, I'm not a teacher. So for me to try to understand a teacher, I have to sometimes step back myself, because it's hard for us all as a group to understand the forwardness of this technology. And for me, as part of the workings of this technology, it was a great reassurance, because in the last 6 days, we've had over 30 plus hours of teaching that between work and taking care of my family and myself, it's a lot. And we needed to step back. And some of the things that were talked about were so reassuring to me, that made me feel so good inside that I'm doing the right things, and I'm trying to be the correct soul inside me to do the correct things to lead us in a peaceful way. And it was my understanding that if we just don't touch these things and don't turn the wires or touch the Gans, it would make us go deeper to realize that we are soulful people. We don't need material things like this in order to enhance us. But we're at a stage where we do need these things to enhance the next step. So I had to try to balance that in my mind, that, like Carolyn said, at one point she asked Mr. Keshe, should we try to have everybody try to connect their MagGrabs units as a material type, as a network? And Mr. Keshe said, no, not yet. No, hold on. There's more connections that need to be made before we go to that level. We will use these things at a correct point, but not just yet. Get familiar with them, touch them, feel them. Don't let them control you. And I think that's where he was worried, that we were moving in a direction that the technology was coming at such a rapid pace that it was overwhelming to us and overwhelming to me. I mean, I'm thinking about this 24/7, and I didn't even I'm using it on my plants and vegetables and flowers, and I got beautiful things happening all around me. And doggone it, he allowed me as the teacher to say, hey, take 30 days, have a vacation, step back and smell the flowers. So that's what I've been doing. I mean, I have lots of things that I'd like to do, and what you're looking at right now is where I stopped my experiments at. And these were so exciting to me, but I had to stop them. And the funny thing is, they're still doing what they're supposed to be doing. And, these are just little capacitors that you're looking at in various sizes and shapes and different Ganses that I put inside them. And, I'm try to be as meticulous as possible. But what, I just wanted to make one more point, Rick. I don't want to blabber on because I'm sure lots more people. But today's, I got a little bit of like an hour's this morning of reassurance, and now it makes me mad because I went away from it a little bit. Was that the assuring factor is that the Ganses are working for us because of the pH factor. Once that water's changed, just like Mr. Keshe said, these are the basic things that we were doing, and I tried to harp this as a standard.
Yeah, you were the one, Mark, that did more pH testing probably than anyone else in the whole shebang.
And I don't know why, but I did, and I still do, and now I'm kicking myself because some of my testings I stopped back in in February because people were poo-pooing me about it and saying that that's not real. I was getting to the point where I was taking electrical testings and taking readings every week on all my Ganses, and all these things change from week to week and from containers to containers. I mean, the intricacies of this material is so vast, and I'm so pleased, not with myself, but my inner self, for telling myself that this is important. In today's lesson, he said, the pH, you could take it to any scientist at any university and any lab, and you try to ask them, explain this to me. How is this pH being changed? This was just because I start out with different pH, and the change.
That's what you have to do, Mark. Is now you mentioned you aren't a teacher, but you are a teacher because you've been teaching us the things that you've been doing, and now you're finding out that maybe you know a little more than you thought you did, or your intuition paid off basically, and this is actually now almost like your specialty in a way, is this pH thing. So here you are. Now you're in an ideal situation, and I would suggest that you should do some of the experiments like Mr. Keshe set out in the last workshop, I believe it was. With the, let me show sort of briefly what I intend to do here. I wanted to have it set up tonight, but I don't. And maybe you can do something similar. And let me think here. Let me do a whiteboard first, and we'll just discuss the idea, and then I'll show my.
I'll stop my video.
Okay. Oops, that went strange there, and let me get this set up and just reshare it. Oops, there we go. Okay, so there they are. Get my tools out here, and I want a thick line, and that's good.
Because that's when we got interrupted yesterday, when he started to get into the actual process of the pH change. That's when he dropped out, and then we never went back to it. In yesterday's morning session, I believe it was.
Well, the idea being, the way I understand it at least, he drew two containers. And so you've got two identical containers basically, and they have some some water inside, same water in both containers.
Like distilled?
I think that would be probably best, but I'm not sure if that's critical. It'd be good. This is what needs to be experimented with different waters. Okay, so you have water. It's supposed to be a 2 there. There we go. And then the way I understand it is, let me see, can I select this color? We put in essentially like a hypodermic or some other container of this one would have so this one might be with regular H2O. Oops. And the other one over here would have Gans water.
So like the alkalizers, they're sealed vessels.
Yeah, that's the impression I got was with
Yes,
this.
and back to the question, what kind of water to put in those blue color containers? It's not about distilled water, but your ordinary tap water or fountain water or whatever water you have, which may have not the ideal quality.
Well, that's why I thought distilled, because then we'd have a baseline that we could work with, that because distilled is 7.0 on the pH scale, isn't it?
Not necessarily. It depends if it's deionized as well as distilled and so on, and there's some variance there. So
distilled water can have an acid condition up to 5.5. Why? Because if it's not closed immediately, it's not isolated from air. If you leave it open, distilled water, it's prone to attract carbon, and a lot of carbon from air will dissolve, and it will create carbonic acid or soda water.
Yeah, it'll attract the carbon dioxide from the air. So in that way, wouldn't I guess distilled water might tend to absorb too much from the air and change the experiment? Is that what you're thinking, Shandor, or why would you not use distilled water?
You can use distilled water, any kind of water, or water from your tap or whatever which you want to change its condition.
Right.
And
so the idea is that both the containers will have the same water, and it'll be the same, starting out with the same pH would be the idea.
If you can see my video in the same time.
Okay, just a minute here.
I'm showing something. So you can get such a pH tester for water. This is specifically for pools. That's why it has also tested for chlorine or whatever. But it's important. It's measuring pretty well the pH range of water. And this starts from, its scale is from 6.8 and it goes up to 7.8. So if it's more yellowish or orange color, it's more acid. If it's more red, it's more alkaline.
Yeah, and people can buy pH meters fairly inexpensively nowadays too, from eBay and that kind of place.
Such a $10 electronic pH meter. Just you have to take care of calibration and consider it has a limited range according to the quality of the electrode.
Okay, so back to the experiment here. So we have we've got your regular water in one syringe, say, or some other similar container, and the Gans water in the other syringe. And the idea is to wait over a period of time and take the pH readings, and that the Gans water, the water that's the Gans water syringe is immersed in, should raise the pH. And this is the experiment. is it going to raise the pH to a higher number, to make it more alkaline, in other words? This is what we're looking for.
Although that Gans water or plasma water is chemically pure water. So chemistry, it shows just it's water. But it's a
Right.
water with different properties, which you can measure.
Right. So science would say that, you know, it's both the same, and if it actually increases the pH with the Gans water, that's definitely an indicator of some field interactions going on that is a lot more than meets the eye. And if we can show that through a replicable, if we can replicate it, then we'll be doing a good favor for the Keshe Foundation and for ourselves, and just confirming that we have something special that's going on here. So I challenge those that are within the sound of my voice that this is a relatively simple experiment to do, and I suggest that it might be a good idea for us to do it. I'll show you what I've got set up here. And spotlight. Let's get this set up. There we go. And get my live stream screen on. Come on. There we go. Alright, so over here, I have to change my lighting. Ah, that's better. Yeah, you can see that. Let's lower this a bit. Okay, so I've got my little test tube rack here with test tubes in it. And the experiment I want to do will be to take one of these test tubes, fill it full of water, and another test tube full of water over there. And then I've got my syringes that I'll fill with one with regular water and one with Gans water, and just stick them in there like that. Wait for a few hours or days depending, and take some regular samples of the pH. Got a pH meter over there somewhere. I think I can make that work, and see what happens. Does that make sense?
Should the syringes be nano-coated?
I don't know.
To help the transfer of the energy through the plastic?
No need.
No need?
If you nano-coat, the nano layer keeps the fields inside.
Inside the plastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, good
You're
point.
welcome. By the way, I put here some little deionized water which I used. I'm making a measurement, so everybody can see it. Can you read that? It needs to focus. Yes, it's a 7.2. So this is the matching color. You see, this is lighter than this is darker than that. So it's about 1.2. So this is the sample of deionized water. So now,
Okay. Deionized water. Okay.
this is which it said it's a distilled water quality, double deionized water or whatever.
Is it double distilled or double deionized?
Double deionized, yes. And now I have here some leftover plasma water. This is desalted completely, no salt inside. You see it's in a sprayer. I use it for several applications, for plants, etc. So now I'm placing this inside, and I can measure later how much it will be the change of pH. So I put it here away on my desk. And I will check later. So it needs some minimum 30 minutes. I'm sorry, I have to shut my microphone. Neighbor started to drill holes to set up new air conditioners. This is in the summer season here.
Breaker. Rick, this is Denny. And I'm wondering if you've set a time to end the class. What's your schedule today?
Yeah, I'd like to end in about probably 10 minutes or so. That'll give me a half hour to prepare for the next round of 3 hours of hosting the piece for the peace workshop. So yes, that would be a good idea. Thank you for the reminder.
Rick, do you have a pH reading for the water, the Gans water that you're going to be using in the test?
I don't yet, but that's a good idea. That would be a good idea to do, just to see what the difference is there between the two.
And by the way, that's physically not in contact with the other water.
Right. No, I just wanted to know if there was if it would be good to have the data on what the pH of the actual plasma water is that's in the.
Yep, that's true. I mean, different people will have different pHs for that, so that would be one of the points of data that should be recorded for this experiment. And we should try to make this as exact as we can as amateur scientists here, and so the data makes sense and can be replicable. I think I said it right that time. Replicable. Replicated.
There was also another test I wanted to try, was to distill the plasma water to see if the pH transferred through the distillation process. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The pH does not transfer through distillation process.
Well, maybe it would with plasma water, though. Have we tried that? I wonder.
Because I think Mr. Keshe mentioned one time when we were talking about trying to, for the health, try to get the purity of it, that if you took the plasma water the water that was mixed with Gans, if you distilled it again, that the field should transfer with when the water is collected at the other end, that you don't lose anything. But I never got to that point yet.
Well, he has mentioned the idea of after plasma water comes plasma vapor, and then after that the plasma, what's beyond the plasma? The plasma of the plasma. But there's plasma vapor, which would be the actual vapor of the plasma water. So perhaps in the distillation process, it's hard to believe, but perhaps that information is retained in that process. I'm getting a lot of feedback. I think, Shandor, your hammering's coming through.
Sorry, it's the neighbors.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
This is about as fun as a dental drill. Yeah.
For an idea for peace was to, if we could create zinc oxide gas and impart that into the planet's atmosphere, how it would change everyone, because then everyone would be breathing in the zinc oxide plasma fields, basically.
Well, it's certainly better than breathing in the particulates from diesel and internal combustion engines, which we're doing every minute of our lives in every single sector and part of this planet right now. There's nowhere, literally, on the planet where you can take a breath that does not have particulates in it. So it's an interesting time we live in that way. However,
how much lead did we inhale in the 70s, 80s?
Yes, and the new lead is sulfur, which is what's emitted from the high sulfur diesel fuels that are used in primarily in industry, railroad engines, and heavy off-road vehicles, and people that the worst ones are, of course, are the super ships that are plying the oceans, which each of the super tankers puts out as much pollution as up to 50 million new cars, which is a pretty big figure for one ship. So,
Rick,
anyway, yes.
I beg to differ on that
Uh
point.
huh.
May
Uh huh.
I
Sure. Differ away.
differ away just because of the factor that we have a spray bottle that can create a field that we don't have, we can live within that field by that spray bottle. Yes, sir. I use that so much now, and I spray it over my head so that it comes down over
Yep.
my head onto my hair and creates a field
Yep.
around a misting field. And it probably doesn't last very long, but at least what it does for me is gives me that field of plasma energy around me. You know, thank you. I do that, and that's my demonstration now. For when I am so confident now with the technology that in my health package that I give to my family and friends, my first demonstration is to use the squirt bottle in my face. That's how I tell them, listen,
Yeah.
folks, if I squirt this in my face, in my mouth, in my eyes, in my nostrils, it's good to go. We're good to
Yeah.
go, folks.
I
My
use it
uncle,
on my hands a lot, and I swear it's what's protecting me now. Otherwise, they'd be in a lot worse shape. It's from skin irritation and so on. It's wonderful. I keep this virtually within arm's length now. I carry it
yes.
in my vehicle. I have it close to my desk. It's
So
like
I don't know how
you
long
can
it
take
lasts.
anything from me, but don't take my Gans. You know?
Yes, it's a wonderful thing, and I just want to say that let's stay in this stand down mode. We can enjoy the the few benefits that we have learned with this technology. Um, I don't want to overreach our teacher, and he told us don't make experiments, don't touch GAN. The GANs that you have is stuff that we can work with and enjoy right now. But there's something bigger and better that he's leading us into or up to. And
Right.
it's a really hard fact to discipline ourselves in not to doing these things. And
Yep, that's true.
that's a lesson in itself.
Well, he talked at one point about how the attention of the people on planet Earth are rooted in different dimensions, and there's the physicality level where most of the population, I think he said around 80% of the population, their attention is rooted into physicality, element, you know, the very basic kind of
Our day to day, eating
yeah,
peanut
and
butter and jelly.
hardware stuff, just the basic regular things. And then there's those people who are more into the nano level where they need a little more elbow room, and they're probably not so regular and regular 9 to 5 employees. Say they are more sort of self-employed. They do their own thing. They need some more elbow room and more space in life, and more. They think bigger, perhaps, than the people that are locked into regular physicality routine. So that's the next level up. And then if you go to the level over that, there's the GANs people, the GANs minded people that are more of like a free plasma in themselves, a free entity, and are experimenting with the Gansas and doing, these fairly incredible, geez, we got some, I'm going to mute you there, Mark. There's some microphone noise. Some fairly incredible stuff with the Gansas that they're playing with and so on. And then there's another level over the people, not that mentality is not the people and they're just working with Gansas. It's a certain degree of freedom of your viewpoint, you might say, or your degree of understanding. So, and then above the Gans level, there's the plasma level, where those who are involved in the plasma level are more orientated with fields and field strength and that kind of juxtaposition, that perspective of fields rather than physicality. They think in terms of maggrav fields or plasmatic fields. And then there's the level above the plasma, which is the plasma manipulators, those who actually work with the plasma and interact with it, basically, to create. Everything gets created from the plasma. So we have these degrees of freedom. Each one has a little more elbow room, but each one has more responsibility at the same time, because you can see the big picture and you can see the levels underneath and so on. But if you're at a certain level, you can't see the level above you. It's very difficult. You have to work hard to get to that point to see the level above. And it usually means dropping the level below. So if we're been involved in nanomaterials and GANs and physicality, in order to look at that next level, the plasma, or you might say the soul level, then we have to let go of the lower levels, and that may mean we have to stop some of this busy activity of working with our stuff and our brain, our hands, and everything's just there's just so much to do. If you just stop and, okay, what is it I really need to do? Oh, I should be giving. Giving. All right. Give to world peace. Give to these leaders. Give to your neighbors. Give from your heart. Not just giving all stuff out or giving money out or something, but just giving from your heart, attention, and your presence, rather than focusing on, what can I do next with my stuff in my life right now? How can I rearrange all the chess pieces? Instead, just look at the whole chess game and give to it rather than trying to play with it. So, for this time period, it's not a absolute by any means, and everything could change tomorrow besides that. So, or in a couple of hours.
Well, Rick, in this group, I think that we're more advanced than that. I don't want to think that we're anything more than what we are. We're just simple people that enjoy. The part about it is the enjoyment of the advancement. And like I said, sometimes we have to step back and take a little sniff of what we've accomplished. And we're accomplishing a lot in a short amount of time, more than we could ever imagine. 2 years ago, I could have never imagined this. Now I can imagine this. So I just wanted to say that. I haven't been able to say a lot in the last month or so, and I'm just glad to be part of this group. And I always want everybody to know that I'm very thankful for all the input and the love and the kindness, the givingness of oneself to this group as a whole is very appreciative in my little corner of the world. And I thank everybody for all their input and all the love that we share with each other. And I know, Rick, you got to go because it's 3:30 and
Yeah.
little break, brother.
All right. Well, thank you, Mark. That was really good words you said both earlier and just now, and I appreciate that very much. And thank you for being here for this whole episode that we're going through. It's quite an experience to say the least. Every day, every show, every time we touch this technology, something new seems to pop up, and we have new insights and so on. So it's great rubbing shoulders with everyone here. Okay, we're going to have to separate shoulders for a bit here, and
Rick,
yes,
1 minute. How can I connect with father of Naomi, wife of Bio Alfonso? Because I want to have a temperature of his point of acupuncture. I try to equal his yin and yang for Naomi. I asked for my teacher. He say try it. It could be useful for her.
to try what? Sorry, I missed part of what you said there.
To balance yin and yang for her.
For who
Because,
again?
for Naomi.
Oh,
Because,
Naomi. Okay. Using
because
acupuncture, is that what you're saying?
no, yeah, no, I don't use a needle of acupuncture. I make with a patch of the pen patch. I have a
Yeah, you would have to do something in the background on that. I don't think it'll be appropriate in the middle of the workshop.
I try to make on the background only.
Yeah.
I show him how to take a pen temperature. He give me, and I say him what to do only. I don't use a needle, nothing. I only a patch of a pen patch only.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're talking about. You'd have to. I have to get going here, so this is eating into my time for myself right now. I have to get going, Chin. So try to write it up, or I'm not sure how you want to present that, but send me an email maybe, or I'm not sure what you like to do there. Just try to clarify it.
Can you give me your email? I give you my email. If he won't, he connect with me. I try to do my best for him.
Yeah, he wouldn't be able to do that, Mr. Chin. So he's so busy that he's just not able to. I'm not able to connect with him, so I don't know if he wouldn't be able to do that. But you would have to first number one be cleared through the Keshe Foundation security. So you'll have to apply through the website and webmaster. You send a message to the webmaster, and then he can direct you how to pass the security. Right, exactly. So that's why you wouldn't be able to be taken seriously as a doctor if you're not a doctor. Okay, so anyway, let's continue because we have to end for now, and we can take this up in the next workshop if you like. Okay, thank you. All right, so we just have to end for now, and thanks everybody. We usually go for 4 or 5 hours here, but I have to end in order to get into the next workshop in the next 10 minutes here. Okay, bye for now.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks, Rick.